Hey guys, thank you guys so much for all your feedback today. If you were a part of the Discord today, I really appreciated all the feedback that came in. We had actually like a huge influx of people coming in today and giving great feedback and testing out the mod, and I really appreciate that. So this was a day project. I really appreciate being able to do this again and get you guys feedback and get you guys excited to get back into the Dying Light world again. And I want to do a quick summary and just kind of talk about all the features that have been changed and added up to version what I'm calling 0.2. I did a release at 1.01 and that went up to 0.1 today, before today, and with all the amazing testing I had today, I think it's safe to say that we're up to 0.2. And I want to get your guys additional feedback. Please make sure to join the Discord group. Get on there and let me know how you feel about the mod, if it's not difficult enough, if it's too difficult. I have not yet created the different difficulties inside the mod, but this should be a good first pass to a much more challenging game. And so let me go ahead and dive back in. We are still in the exact same place we were in the earlier video, but let me explain what's changed. So basically, this is after we've come out of the first dark interior part of the level for the tutorial. I apologize there. And you've come out on this rooftop, and over to the left we can continue the tutorial, but actually I'm going to diverge over to the actual just world and show you some of the things that I've added. So one of the things I've set up this evening was this idea of, with all these different mods coming out, a lot of people have asked, what is the compatibility with other mods? Well, one of the mods that I like the most is this idea of walk and sprint. So it's the ability to choose when you want to sprint instead of this always sprint. So currently it just always sprints, and I have updated the mod to where this will drain your stamina, so you can't just run forever. One of the things that a lot of players were doing was they would just, outrun the zombies for an unlimited time because their stamina would never drain, so they could just keep running. Well, I've gotten rid of that by making you have to consider what your route is to get from point A to point B within the stamina that you have. As you begin to level up, the stamina hit will, not be as heavy. But the idea here is that I want to start scaling the difficulty to meet the most players' needs, to where we can say, okay, we're level 30, what does that look like for the mod? So please keep me informed of how this feels. But what I was saying with the mod support is that basically I'm trying to pull all my mods details over to where it's being injected in by the difficulty settings. So if you're using a difficulty lower than hard, a majority of the things for this mod should go back to normal. So you should be able to play this game without a lot of the effects on normal. That being said, I can't guarantee the results of what all that would look like because I'm trying to balance everything out. But you should be able to at least play the game and get through it on normal if you need to change that difficulty to bring it back down to get through a certain part. So that being said, if you run into an area that you just can't get through because of this mod, you don't have to necessarily remove it. You should be able to change the difficulty back down so that you're able to continue on. So one of the things I was looking at today was this idea of making these zombies, these main zombies out here, more dangerous. So as they currently stand as the default AI, they just kind of shamble around. They're very easy to dodge, very easy to manipulate, and I wanted to fix that. So basically we want to give you a challenge as the player to where these zombies are going to come after you. So they're listening, they're hearing when other zombies are hit, and they will charge you. And so basically the idea is that you are able to fight them, you are able to defeat them, but you want to make sure that you're doing so in a strategic way. So even things like blocking now cost stamina. So you are able to block certain hits, but that can only last so long. So take a couple of hits and then figure out your exit strategy. I've also updated the mod to where you now have a lot of damage based on limbs. So for example, if we switch over to a blade, you should see here that we can start cutting through these guys and actually doing some pretty serious damage based on the areas that you aim for. So let's see if we can show you guys what we're talking about here. blades are just breaking on me. All my weapons are pretty low quality here, but the idea is that as I continue the mod and continue to balance this, you should end up with the result of where you have more and more zombies that are able to be pulled apart by your weapons. So you can actually get in here and do more damage to these zombies, actually take off these limbs, and they'll still come at you. So the idea is as you start to get more bladed weapons, you should be able to come up and actually take down a large amount of these enemies without having to worry about them getting back up. So the more you start swinging those blades, you can see here that he's lost an arm, he's lost both legs, and he's still alive. So at this point, he's a danger on the ground, but you should be able to get away at this point. One of the other things that comes baked into the mods are all of the physics updates. So a big discussion when this mod first came out, or not the mod, but when the game first came out, was the physics having issues where they baked in more animations than they did ragdoll effects. Those have all been fixed as far as I can see. One of the things that is left over that I was not able to fix is this idea of jumping down and doing damage to enemies. A lot of this is tied up in a skill that's called attack from death from above. And so I was not able to modify a lot of this without affecting some of the skill sets already available in the game. So I want you guys to continue to give me feedback on the physics systems as you start to level up, as you start to use this this death from above perk, to let me know if that's balanced well enough. But essentially, you should be able to then jump down and attack the enemies, and they should do ragdoll effects at this point. So let's move on to more ragdoll effects. One of the things that I set up for these enemy bandits is before, on the earlier edition of the mod, these guys would basically get overwhelmed by zombies pretty quick. They would just kind of fall down and get overrun by these enemies pretty fast. So I went ahead and modified that to where they should actually now fight with these zombies and actually have it out. So they're not going to just fall on the ground and die really quickly. They'll actually enter into some hand-to-hand combat. They'll actually fight, and sometimes they win, sometimes they lose based on the numbers. I'm continuing to try to balance the game out, so the thing that I always start with are the zombies first. Once I get the zombies how I want the zombies, then I go and I balance the human AI. So the human AI will be coming shortly, but let's go ahead and show you guys the meat and potatoes of what has changed. So normally when you would walk into an area like this, you would not have this many zombies jumping in from all over the place. Well, let's look at these physics and how this changes the map. So I've turned off all the ragdoll limitations, so ragdoll should now affect all the zombies that are close enough to be affected by the blast. I do have this limited up to 16, so it's not an infinite level, but I wanted to make sure that nobody was having actual problems on their computers. And you can see here that the physics have been updated for the actual collisions with these gas tanks, so you can now get in that satisfying attack with those gas tanks. If we go up higher here, go up towards the roof, you can see that with explosions we actually get a lot of response on the map. So we'll start to get zombies pouring in from all directions to find out what's going on. The longer you stay in these areas, the more likely you are to be overwhelmed. So the idea is that you pretty much want to just keep moving as you're causing chaos throughout the map. If you stay too long, then you're probably eventually going to be overwhelmed or lose all your weapons. Another big part of this was the sound overhaul. So I've always been very interested in how the sound works in these games. So basically, when you have a building like this full of enemies and you start to upset the map, basically you will start to bring down chaos. And so the longer, as I mentioned, the longer you stay in the area, the more noise you start to cause. The more this map is going to kind of just transform into zombies coming from all directions. So you can see they're on the rooftops, they're coming out of the different buildings, they're running up from all directions, and as you can see I didn't move fast enough and I got taken down while I was talking. So the idea here is that I wanted to make the daytime dangerous, like the first I Am Legion mod, and the idea is that at night it's even more dangerous because you have the chase system. So currently you're looking at just a system that is using these zombies to create a challenge for the player, but then once you actually start looking at the chase system, now all of a sudden you have special infected, you have volatiles, you have all these different other special zombies that are coming in to make that even more challenging. So the idea here is that you can really get out and enjoy the city and actually take on lots of challenges with the AI, and then at night play I'm going to continue to try to balance this mod to where it's more rewarding to go out at night. It's more loot, more interesting experiences, but it also comes with that added difficulty of you may be overwhelmed very quickly by special volatiles and special AI. With this is all multiplayer and single player friendly, so if you have friends that you want to play with, please grab your friends and try out this this mod. So I have changed a couple of things as far as that goes. The original developers set up a few things where basically the more players you had in the experience, the easier the game would get. So they actually gave a lot of perks and bonuses for having more players in the game. I went ahead and reversed a lot of that to where the game gets more difficult the more people you have in the game. I've tried to keep this pretty low as far as not too much modification there, but enough to start saying that the game is actually harder on co-op versus playing solo. So you should actually have more of an advantage on solo than you should have when playing co-op. And what that, the majority of that looks like is that more zombies are going to spawn, the nights are going to be more intense with more co-op players, and you're not going to get perks to your stamina and health just because you have other players in the game. So that's going to be more challenging. One of the things that I've currently set up in here is the idea that if you go high, you can actually escape the zombies, so I didn't want to overwhelm players too much here. So the idea is the higher you go, the safer you are. And so basically, you will have some zombies follow you, so if you go down and run across the streets and pick up a lot of zombies, you are more likely to have them follow you up to the rooftops. But if you are able to take those down, you shouldn't have other zombies running up to the top from the streets. They should all kind of slowly start to head back where they came from. So you can see here we have a trail of zombies slowly heading back to that area that they first started chasing you from. Some of the other systems that were developed is basically I'm trying to blend out all of these different mods to where we're creating a balance, we're creating a good gameplay for all of our player base, and I really want to hear your guys' feedback and opinions before I start solidifying a lot of these difficulties. But the idea is that eventually the mod will have 3 different difficulties. It will have kind of a casual survivor, as I call it, then the I believe I was calling it the normal survivor or survivor mode, and then the hardest difficulty is the ultimate survivor. The idea behind this is that if you are trying to play a more intense game, if you like runners, if you like this idea that they be able to swarm up to the rooftops, then it's very easy to manipulate the code to where we say, okay, if you're an ultimate survivor and you want to look down and see these guys climbing and scaling the walls to get at you, if you use your flashlight in this area, it will bring down the flood kind of thing, then we can build that, or I can build that into the game. But I want to try to get your guys' feedback first, because unlike with the first game, one of the things that I did get excited about was my own play style more than the player's play style, and so I want to try to get your guys' feedback in here before going too heavy on any one system. So I will be using the Discord channel to try to understand what you guys are seeing, what bugs you're running into, and we were actually able to eliminate quite a few bugs today and get this system more stable. So to quickly recap some of the things that we will that are currently in the system is the ability to move quickly through the city and be chased. So they will chase you for a very long time in the city. You have this ability to then switch to night mode, where night mode will be more difficult, but it should also maintain a lot of what's already available in the game, so you shouldn't have any severe changes to where you're unable to complete certain quests and that kind of thing. You should still have your camouflage systems, you should still have all those systems that you should normally have in the game. The only difference is that the infected walkers are actually more challenging. They're actually using group behavior. They're actually running after you. They're more challenging inside the cities. They will overwhelm you, and it's this idea of just don't stop running until you know where you're heading. So you can see here that my stamina is already pretty low, and so you need to know where you're heading, what you're doing inside the city, and if you're too slow, then you can see here you'll get overwhelmed pretty quickly, especially on the lower rooftops. Okay guys, I think that's a pretty good summary for point 2. Please let me know your feedback. I'm continuing to summarize these different features on the mod itself. And so if you go to my mod page on the Nexus mods, and I will be releasing this mod also on mod DB here shortly. If you go to that link, you should see the full description of everything that's being changed as I'm changing it. Alright guys, thank you so much. I hope you guys have a blast on here. Grab your buddies, start exploring the city, and I hope you guys have a good gaming experience. Thanks.